What is happening, Mr. Mark Willie? How are you today, my friend?
Happy BS Friday live on Dave Cooper Live, Dave.
I love it. I love it. Another Friday, another day, another great guest that we have coming on. So welcome everybody for joining us today. We appreciate each and every one of you that are out there attending today's event with the one, the only, and there is only one of them. And it is St. Patrick's Day week, but we're not going to talk about his kilt either. I'm not even going to say his name. I'm going to keep it in suspense a little bit longer because I think, Mark, we have somebody else that can say his name.
Let's bring him on, Dave. But we should let everyone know we're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and
Twitch. And why are we on Twitch?
Well, that's because Greg Ugaldi says it's a cool place to be.
Absolutely. It is a cool place to be. All right. Well, Gerry McCaughey, I said the name, doesn't know who's going to be on the show with us today, but it is a surprise. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And just so everybody knows at Dave Cooper Live, we are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. From building science to building tech to building codes and building systems, everything and everybody who is building it better. And today's guest is by far no different and has taken it way to the next level. And with that said, we have a special guest to introduce our special guest. So why don't you give us that introduction, Mark?
Yes, thanks, Dave. I had the pleasure many years ago of meeting a gentleman by the name of Tomas O'Leary. And he conducts trainings all over the place. He is the essential person for bringing the PHI trainings to North America, as well as transforming the code in which we know it back in Ireland. So without further ado, I would like everyone to meet and give your applause and likes to the one and only Tomas O'Leary.
Love it. Hey, Tomas, thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Week. It's great to be here with you all. And Gerry, we've been planning this for quite a while now. I hope you're suitably surprised and delighted to be here. Thanks very much for the invite, Mark and Dave. As you mentioned, I've been very involved in high performance buildings. I'm sitting in a passive house here that I built in 2004. It caused quite a stir at the time, and we went on and then we started working in the US. We were even involved in the tallest passive house building in the world, the Cornell Tech Tower, 26 stories, and in fact we're doing a 48-story passive house tower in London right now. So building science is finally sort of getting involved in the larger, taller buildings, so it's great to be here. I do want to say a few words by way of introduction to Gerry. Gerry would be blushing when Gerry would be a hero of mine. He's certainly a tour de force here in Ireland and a household name of somebody Gerry is no question. He's a disruptor in the green building world. Gerry was on the front line, on the newspapers, on the television, on the radio here in Ireland, banging the drum about building offsite, building low carbon buildings in timber. And Gerry McCaughey was building in wood construction here in Ireland when nobody else was doing it, and grew it to very substantial, to a very substantial proportion of the Irish market. As we know, 40% of carbon emissions globally are from the building sector. So it's incumbent on everybody here today watching this session, that we can all do our piece to reduce the carbon emissions of buildings. And I think Gerry, I know Gerry is now bringing his knowledge and expertise in offsite construction to the US. So Gerry's bringing two things. He's bringing all the knowledge he has on offsite fabrication, but also, building that through wood frame construction. So that's really exciting. The construction industry has been very slow to adapt. If you think about the travel industry, if you think about the car technologies, mobile phone technology, construction is still very much, doing things as we have been doing for decades. And it's a great honor today, everybody, to give a big heads up to Gerry McCaughey. So good to see you, Gerry. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Oh, I love it. I think, well, you know what? I love this is the only chance I get it to get a word in when we have Gerry on. So maybe we should bring him into the stream. What do you think, guys?
I think so.
I love it. I will say, Gerry, there was only one thing that I heard that I didn't agree with Tomas on, and that was you're bringing new construction technology here. I say you've already brought it and you've taken it to the next level.
Yeah, Tomas, it's great to see you. I'm delighted. Actually, it's been a while since
You too, Gerry.
seen your face. I'm delighted, and I am absolutely shocked that you're here. But two, I said I can't get a word in edgeways with Dave when I'm here, but I'm nearly speechless now as to that intro. But I put the other way. I mean, Tomas actually has been the driving force. I mean, he was the first man to really go out there and say, you know, passive housing is here, it works, and it can work. Because at that point in time when Tomas actually built his first house, it was sort of held out there that this was, and I'll say this, and it was sort of airy-fairy, and it was for one-offs, and there was no future in it. Yeah, and some guy could go off and do one house here, but Tomas took it and drove it and actually proved that he could drive it into the industry. And like, not alone passive, but I mean, even, and I know myself and Tomas were both on the same page in terms of driving the increase in energy efficiency standards in Ireland, but Tomas went on way past that. Now, well, I mean, being main force behind driving to the NZEB standard, the nearly zero energy buildings in Ireland as well. So, I mean, he's colossal knowledge and experience in.
Thank you,
that.
Gerry.
I mean, listen, it's a fact. I mean, it's irrefutable. He's driven that whole area, and now not just doing it in Ireland, but around the world. So it's amazing.
Great to see you, Gerry. Great to see you.
On St. Patrick's Week, Tomas, I find, notwithstanding our fact we have two American colleagues here, I find it amazing that there's two Irish people on here who have been pushing the envelope.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks so much for those kind words.
No, you're absolutely. It's great to see you. It really is.
Yeah. So Tomas, I don't know which introduction or which response was more heartwarming, Gerry's or Thomas. I almost feel like we need to do a virtual hug, guys. I'm loving it. Maybe with some Guinness and some Irish whiskey somewhere. Sounds good to me.
Right, okay. Well, actually, just so you do see that.
Oh, is that?
Ooh, Gerry, nice.
That is my name in Gaelic.
Full Irish.
As every Tomas, I'm actually it's
yes.
good you're all Tomas O'Leary. Well, there's my name in Gaelic, Garrod McCuckig. That's how you say Gerry McCaughey in Gaelic.
I want to say one other thing. I want to say one other thing about Gerry and the FIOSS. So you've heard about this this word that Gerry uses, FIOSS. But what most people on the line don't use is if you take away the last S in FIOSS, it's actually Gaelic for know-how or expertise. And I find it kind of ironic, you know, that Gerry, you're using that name over there in the States. I think it's not ironic. I think it's fantastic. And the first time I saw that word, I was sure that you were using that as a kind of a subterfuge for "we've got the know-how, baby." And I do make that connection, Gerry.
Yeah, I'll take that and run with it. But it wasn't.
Say it one more time, Thomas. So FIOS means what in Gaelic?
It means expertise or know-how. It basically means know-how.
Ooh, man, you snuck that one under the radar, Gerry.
There you go. I really did. Under my own radar.
I love it. All right, everybody, listen, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. This was an awesome introduction. Thomas, hopefully you can stick around in the background. At the end of the show, we always bring our guests back on. If you can't, that's okay as well. But if you want to stick around, we'll bring you back in at the end. Gerry, for all the people that are tuning in today that may not know who you are, can you take 2 minutes and just give your elevator pitch? And as we always say, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time, and do not leave out any of the good, gross stuff from the hospital. Ready?
God, okay.
All right, Thomas, we'll bring you back in a bit.
Again, well, my name is Gerry McCaughey. I am currently the CEO and chairman and co-founder of Entekra, based in Ireland and California. But my history in offsite construction goes back through my dad to the early 60s, who was a carpenter and emigrated to the United States and discovered discovered wood framing construction as a methodology for building homes back then, because at that point in time in Ireland, all homes were built out of concrete blocks, one on top of another. And when he moved back to Ireland, then subsequently he thought, wow, this is an interesting idea. As a carpenter, I can build houses out of timber. But even though he had learned about stick framing, it never crossed his mind to actually start stick framing on site in Ireland. Now, I never asked him why he chose to go into a building. Was it the weather or what it was? But I think it was more to just do with the European mentality of, well, it's obviously much faster, more efficient and cost effective to build things in a factory environment. So he set up what was effectively the first offsite wood framing business in one of the ones in Europe, but it was certainly the first in Ireland at that point in time. Which, when I say business, I mean it was him and 2 or 3 other guys, and they would make the walls and the roof trusses in a factory or in a shed and bring them out to site at the weekend and build these custom homes, small custom homes for people. And that business, however, went on to become a fairly substantial offsite business and did change to a large degree, or was instrumental in starting the change to the use of offsite construction in the Irish market. But then in the 80s, he got out of that business and was semi-retired. And I had gone off to California actually that time after leaving college. But when I was in the college those years, I had written a thesis on how you could start up and build a large multinational offsite company, and that the real reason why it hadn't been done previously wasn't because there was a problem with offsite construction, but rather there was bad marketing and a misunderstanding among the people who were involved in the industry. But that's all it was. It was just to get my way through college and get my degree. But my dad phoned me one day when I was in California and asked me, and he said, "Do you remember that report?" That he had found that report, and he said, "Do you remember that report that you wrote when you were in college?" And he said, "Do you think it was true?" And I can remember saying to him, "I can barely remember writing the report, let alone even know what was in it, whether it was true or not." But I said, "I don't recall that I ever wrote anything that I didn't believe in." And he said to me, "Well," he said, "listen, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and come back from California to Ireland and let's start this thing up." And literally 3 months later, on December the 3rd, 1989, I flew back from LAX to Dublin. And on January the 1st of 1990, myself, my brother, my dad, and a gentleman by the name of Jim McBride started a company called Century Homes out of a 5,000 square foot building on the outskirts of a small little town in Ireland called Monaghan. And fast forward that 15 years later, that company was the largest offsite company in Europe. And we had 5 factories, 3 in Ireland, 2 in the UK, and we're producing somewhere around 8,000 homes a year. But when I say homes, it's not just that. We were doing everything. I mean, we did nursing homes, hospital extensions, hotels, multifamily. Actually, we were involved in the world's first 6-story light frame wood frame building ever built that actually broke the codes for that as well. And we were involved, as Tomas, we were involved in the Kingspan Century, which was a subsequent name of my company when we sold that in 2005, which was the first zero carbon home, not zero net energy, but zero carbon home ever built in the UK.
Wow. So
our company was really at the leading edge of both engineering, performance, and manufacturing, as well as at the energy efficiency standards, pushing the envelopes. And as Tomas quite rightly said, at that point in time, I was very much known as being somebody who was pushing the cold green agenda with regard to construction in the Irish market. And then sold that company in 2005, and I stayed on until 2008, and then moved to California after that. And we were in a market that was in free fall. Obviously, the recession, that 2008 Great Recession was in mid-flow, and said, well, there's no point me trying to get back in the industry at that point. So I just set up consultancy, hopefully biding my time for the market to turn around, and then thinking, okay, now would be the time to bring offsite construction as we know it. And I mean, and I think we can discuss this later on, as we know it as Europeans to the American market, not what was being called here offsite construction, but. And I'm not talking about modular, I'm talking about the panelized side of it, that ours was a completely different approach. And then around 2017, we went out, raised money, raised $45 million from Louisiana Pacific, and we set up our first facility. Well, we had a facility in Ripon. We set up our new facility in Modesto, where we currently are. And we have a 200,000 square foot fully automated facility, which is probably the Autoval now, to be fair to them, are probably the most automated now with their robotics. But we're probably the second most automated plant of its kind in North America.
Yeah.
and trying to drive the change into the market now and bring that European style of offsite panelized construction to the US market.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have brought it. First of all, it's here.
It's here,
and it's growing. And I mean, great. I learned something else today. When I was graduating high school, you were already working on your business plan. That's pretty impressive. 1989.
I didn't know I was working on it, by the way, but Dave, I didn't know I was working on it. I was just trying to get through college.
Yeah, I was going. I keep saying this on the show. It keeps coming up. Well, you were trying to get through college. I was listening to the judge tell me to get on the bus to go to the Army or get on the other bus to take you somewhere else. So I went to the Army. I love it. Yeah. So
I'll also say good on your father for bringing up the attention to the paper you wrote and asking you if you stand behind it. Right. That moment in time has caused transformation for many people besides his son. And bless his heart for having that conversation, and for you for having the wax out of your ears to hear it.
Yeah, no, it was one of those funny. I mean, it is when you think about the set of circumstances. You do a report in college to get out of college. You never really think of anything. Your dad picks it up, reads it, and then says, "Okay, you think this is true? Come back here and let's have a go at it." And my dad just passed away about three months ago. He was 85, but he was the true Mr. Offsite. I mean, he didn't create companies; he created an industry, and I mean, really did. He was an incredible man and incredible foresight to do what he did. Because to put it in context, you know, when people look at markets about what products they're going to bring in, and this is, I mean, true of you guys as well, Mark, with regard to and Dave, particularly with regard to your T-stud, for example. When you look out there and you say to yourself, you know, if everybody else is using something else, you say, well, there's no market for my product because there's no existing market already there. You have to go and create a new market. And that was sort of the same as my dad when he said it back in the 60s. There was no market for wood frame houses. It was concrete. Right. And so there's no cake to eat into. You're going to start from scratch, and people go to you, you're out of your mind. Where do you, and even when we set up Century Homes in 1990, the amount of times that I was told you'll never sell, quote, you'll never sell wooden houses to the Irish. That was the exact expression that was said to me multiple times. In fact, and I had a senior executive from a very large concrete company tell me those words, said that you're never going to get anywhere with this. And yet, 15 years later, that same concrete company was running ads on national television, newspaper, and radio to try to hold us back from the growth that we were experiencing, because we'd gone from pretty much 1% market share to 40% market share in a period of 15 years. So it just shows you what can be achieved when you're dedicated to the cause.
Yeah. And you know what, just real quick, I mean, we're lighting up in the comments here. If you have a question, just so we get to questions, put a Q as the first letter for the question so we get to it. We're not going to probably have a chance to get through everybody's comments the way they look like they're flowing in at the moment. We will try our best to do so, but definitely put a Q there. Gerry, what I want to understand and what I find interesting about our show that we're doing, especially Building Science, is where did the passion come from to get into the green aspect, the healthier aspect, the higher efficiency aspect of building? I understand where you got the idea for the wood, but you know, you were involved in high energy design from an early stage, yes?
Yep, absolutely. But I mean, because Tomas said it as well. I mean, it was there it was obvious. It was sort of obvious to me when we looked at bringing wood frame construction versus concrete construction. It stood out straight away all the other benefits that we were bringing in terms of healthy home, energy efficient homes, and also at the same time, remember, there was something going on in Europe that wasn't really going on here. It was going on here, but it was being ignored, which was the Kyoto Protocol. And so the Kyoto Protocol, and Tomas mentioned the figures. I mean, the figures were astounding in terms of the amount of CO2 that was being produced both directly and indirectly from construction activities. And whilst Ireland doesn't really have a cooling issue with homes, it has a heating issue. Now, people say, well, the Irish weather's not that severe, therefore you don't really need to have a lot of heating. That's not true. What actually happens is the Irish temperature is just cold enough that you have a very, very long heating cycle. We actually have one of the longest heating cycles in the world terms of our homes, because we're people in regular houses at that point in time, and I mean going back now 20 plus years, at that point in time, we're heating their homes basically from the end of August until the end of June.
Right.
So you can imagine the amount of fuel that's being consumed and the amount of CO2 that's being produced. So as an Irish person living in Ireland at that point in time, I'm looking at this going, we've got a problem here because the Kyoto Protocol is in place. If we don't control our CO2 emissions, we're going to get penalized. So we as a country will be fined. So that's money being wasted by the country because we're not controlling something which we can control. And I suppose that was the key thing to me, is it wasn't the issue, the fact of saying, we're going to have to go out here and develop some massively new modern technology to improve the overall efficiency of homes that would make them more healthy and actually reduce the CO2. No, it wasn't. It was there. It's just the industry was ignoring it, refusing to take it on board, and the politicians were basically ignoring it also. And so we as a company at that point in time, I said, okay, we can actually differentiate ourselves here and go out here and show the market that you can actually both save yourself money in the long term by having a more energy efficient home, have a healthier home, and you can also do the environment the world of good. And so it sort of all came together at the one time. But the Kyoto Protocol was the overall thing, was sort of saying, hey guys, look, there's an issue here that we're all going to pay for if we don't sort out.
I have 3 points to bring up to that speed. First, bless your heart for the comments you provided to your father and the legacy that's created for the industry. The next point, when you said that these gentlemen came to you and said that wood will never be used to build homes here in Ireland, it was interesting that statement was given to you, and then years later they also created a media line to ensure that their agenda of keeping it impossible would happen, and in fact it was not a possibility. And then when you said about the heating days in Ireland and building timber frame, it's also the necessity that you created with Offsite to make the wood an application for a moisture and rain rich building season, right? That is the essential role in health, is how your product got delivered and made, not just that it happened to be timber frame.
Correct.
Brilliant set of circumstances, and it's the David and Goliath theory, right?
Yeah, there was a bit of that all right going on, Mark. I mean, it amazed. I said the greatest compliment that I ever got in my business career was the fact that the concrete industry in Ireland had to run ads to try to keep us down. That was, and I say that to smile. I mean, I've no aggro or anything with them. It was just an amazing thing that within a 15-year period, the industry that was absolutely totally dominant had to run ads, and they literally tried the Three Little Piggies ad. They ran that one, basically saying, the three little pigs and the wolf and down the wooden house. They tried everything, absolutely everything. Actually, they reported me to the Advertising Standards Authority in Ireland on 2 occasions. Twice they reported me because of stuff that I had put out, but I was correct. But they didn't like it, and they actually went also to show that they didn't even fully understand themselves, their own facts. And the Advertising Standards Authority basically said, "We're out of this. We're not getting involved." So, but that was the kind of things we were dealing with on an ongoing basis through that period of time.
Is it still carrying on today?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was asking if it's still carrying on today with the concrete industry overseas.
I'm not sure to what degree that it is, because I'm so far out of it now. Tomas might have a better understanding of that now. But I know that one of the last times I was back home, I did still see that slogan on the back of a concrete truck when I was driving down the motorway from Dublin Airport to Monaghan, saying, concrete built is better built. That was their strap line. I used to put one up in the newspapers and said timber frame is the best built. Yep. just to sort of respond back to them. But I would do it tongue in cheek to them, I never really worried too much about what they were doing. I found it almost beneficial in terms of giving us credibility. So he took it and it was almost like using jiu-jitsu or something else, and use our judo, using their own power against them.
You know, the folks in the concrete industry, they don't have a blue hat with a great message on it. That
No, they don't.
love that. Best ever. Truly the best ever. And Dave, this is really interesting. So this is the second week in a row where our discussion is, in some parts of the world, concrete is affordable and wood is not, and in other parts of the world, it's contrary. But it all depends on your methodology and your path to market. Not just a line in the sand that says concrete or wood. It's your methodology.
Correct. And also again in terms of, I mean, of offsite construction and wood itself, the beauty of it is it's probably not saying there isn't a better one, but it's probably one of the two best materials in terms of offsite construction. Obviously it has its issues because it's a natural material and there can be dimensional variations in it. But again, that's not as big an issue in Europe, believe it or not, as it is over here, because again, in Europe, all the lumber has to be kiln dried, and it is processed to a far higher standard than you're typically able to get to here. They operate to higher tolerances, so it's much easier to run it on automated equipment which is something we've learned that over there than it is over here. But it is the process.
That's going to be a very deep dive when we talk about green wood and kiln dried wood. We spoke about it at length yesterday. Dave, can we break to questions before we do the deep dive on timber?
Yeah, definitely going to break to questions. But as we do this, Mark, I think before each break, I want to celebrate a little bit of Entekra because and we're going to start off in 2020 because you were the winner of the Ivory Prize of Housing Affordability. Because I know once we get going, we won't have a chance to flash all these and actually say something about it. So you're doing something right, Gerry, because you're getting a lot of recognitions, you're winning a lot of awards, and there's more awards coming up as well.
But can I say this, Dave, just when you get off this? Because I know that, I mean, I'm very lucky in the sense that I am literally the mouthpiece for Entekra. Yep. However, I think it is very, very important that I say this. You need to look at the team that's at Entekra, because 100%. This is, as though we are a startup, we're not a startup, because everybody that's in that company, I mean, a lot of the guys at the senior management of that company were involved in the startup of Century Homes. So they have a colossal amount of experience and a colossal amount of knowledge and scars on their backs, and have pretty much, and it says, pretty much seen it all before. Yeah. So when we hear, and this is funny, when we hear things thrown up here in the US and somebody said, oh, yeah, well, that's not going to work, or what do you hear this is going to happen, or how are you going to handle this? And like, for example, how are you going to handle code variations? They don't seem to understand. When we were in Century, we were selling product into the north of Ireland, Scotland, England and Wales, the Republic of Ireland, Japan, France, Germany. We were dealing with codes in different languages in different countries. That's just what we did. So again, this is what differentiates, again, us as a European offsite company. When you had to do what we did, this stuff that comes up in the US because they're saying, oh, you have so many codes. My answer to that is, so what? Just manage it. It's not a big deal. Yes, you have to put effort into managing it, but that's what you do. It doesn't put you off. And I have a litany of things like that are said to us. And I go, do you think we haven't seen this before? So that's the team.
We're gonna dive into all those great things, but first we're gonna go to some comments here. Just say hello to a few people, get through a couple questions, and we'll keep rocking and rolling. And then, Gerry, we will talk about what FiOS is doing. We're also going to show some videos as well. So it's just not going to be three talking heads here. We're going to show some videos. And Gerry, you are absolutely right. We have had several Entekra team members on our show, spotlighting the good work that they're doing. So 100%, you guys are rocking it. All right, let's get into it here. We're going to start off with Sean Say No More. Top of the morning to the BS Friday team. Happy belated St. Patrick's Day. Entekra is prefab. Love FiOS, but when can we change it to FiOS?
Very good.
I'll tell you, these passive house guys, man, they're all over the place.
They don't let go. They don't let go.
It's kind of like the cultural change we're going through in this country right now, the cancel culture. No more F's. Everything has to be a PH.
Yeah.
I cannot wait until the dictionary gets the F out and goes with PH. I cannot wait.
That's your new t-shirt, Mark. Get rid of the F and go with PH. All right. We got Devin Tully. What's happening, Devin? Happy BS Friday. Good to see you, brother. I hope all is well. All right, moving down the line. Well, Sean just keeps. Thomas is a legend. So I know Thomas is in the background. Thomas is a legend. And I think I'm saying that right. Thomas, right?
Moss.
Yeah, good, good. And we got Buzz Holzer. Happy BS Friday from Florida. I know Buzz is only stepping away from where I'm at. We have to get together with him and drink some margaritas on the beach here. Well, here we go. Let's celebrate a little Entekra. There's Juan. Juan was on our show not too long ago, multifamily development, home builder. He's just putting all the tags in there, doing what Juan does, because Juan handles a lot of the marketing at Entekra. So
Yes, he does.
And you know what's great about Juan? He's a young person. He has a very bright mind, and I think he has a very bright future in front of him. It was great having him on the show.
Hey, you see all those videos that we produce? He produces them.
I know. I've been trying to hire him from you, but he won't leave, Gerry. I don't know.
Good. I'll come after you.
Yeah, I don't want that, especially if you're in a kilt this week. I'm good. All right, let's move on. Craig Toohey says, Tomos. What's happening, Craig? All right, we'll say hi to Daniel Fulga. He's just giving happy faces. And now, all right, so here is a question. Steve Holzer. You know Steve Holzer?
Yep.
Steve asked, what is Entekra doing that was not done by the Levitt brothers in the 1950s and done by National Homes in the 60s and 70s? I can almost answer this one, but I'm going to let you go, Gerry.
Well, first of all, I have the height of respect for the Levitt brothers and what they did, because believe it or not, there's a story for you. You talk about coincidences of all coincidences. The very first house that I stayed in when I moved to the United States after I left college was on Long Island, and it was built by the Levitt brothers. And my aunt in Long Island still owns that house today. So I have a connection there going back to Offsite construction. But the difference, I mean, the real difference is there is no comparison to what was being done by the builders in the 60s and 70s, or even, honestly, what's being done by the component industry today. I mean, we don't even see ourselves as a component. We see ourselves as a technology company. Ours is about the process. People here tend to focus on, these companies tend to focus on panels and what the hard product is, when in reality, the benefit that gets derived to the builder is as a result of the process improvement. And that involves so much more than just supplying panels to a site. But even going back onto that, when you do talk about panels, when you look at the level of integration in our system, right through to the floor panels, the wall panels, the roof panels, it's a completely different animal. And the whole building being 3D modeled in advance, where we take in the HVAC, the plumber, the electrician, and try to work through their issues so that we can make it more efficient for them. So it's not about, Offsite is not about panels. It's about making the whole process more efficient. So we involve everybody in it. But that sort of question is sort of typical of the misunderstanding that exists in the US, where they think it's only about the panels. The panels are only, what I like to say is, the panels are only an output. They happen after all the other hard work takes place. And all the other hard work, that what I say, the 80% of the hard work that takes place, you cannot see or touch. It's actually going through the process. The panels are the last 20%. It's the 80% that everybody else doesn't do that differentiates us from the rest of the component industry.
Well, and that's the key thing there, component versus a true system. And I think we'll get into that here as we get into the show, because most panel companies are just a component of a system.
Correct.
All right. Moving. Oh, no, not him. Good old Andrew Seeley's in the house. G-Pods, what's happening, Andrew? He says, great show, folks. Craig Campbell says, great job, Gerry. Let me keep moving down the line here. All right, Alex White. Really? Alex White is joining us today. What's up, Alex? These offsite timber kits need passive per, of course, external new fire, Class B, new spray. So Alex is promoting a little passive.
Alex doesn't give up. Alex doesn't give up. And he has, to be fair, he has a great product. He really does have a great product. I mean, Alex, believe me, I love your product. If I could get it, at the right time and I can get it into the US market, don't worry, I will be there.
I love it. Well, I agree with you, and with Alex and a lot of the other people that they do plug. For me, I put it up there because I believe in what they're doing. They're good people, and they're really trying to make a difference with their products. So I love it. All right, Sean Salem Moore has a question. Love FiOS, but when can we? Oh, I already did that one. My thing bounced back to the top. My fault, folks. All right. Let's see. Daniel Fulgo, what alternatives to wood framing members and plywood sheathing are you considering?
Well, at the moment in the United States market, we're not considering anything other alternatives, to be honest. Now, having said that, in Europe during my time at Century, we considered everything and did do everything. I mean, we were doing everything from SIPs to light gauge steel to wood framing and actually building walls out of I-joists, and for not just for the roof or the floor, but actually for the walls. So we looked at everything. The issue here is in the market that we're in, which is, and this is again important to say, like, we're primarily focused on the production home builders, which, I mean, they are, one, they're slow to change, but two, they're very first cost driven, and that's the battle until we can get them around. And more and more of them are coming around where they start to understand that it is the profits in the process, and they're starting to come around to it. But it's a hard thing to go to them, and a lot of them are so risk averse that if it hasn't already been happening for the last 10, 20, 30 years, they don't want it. It doesn't matter what you put in front of them, they don't want to try it because they're so afraid of getting, as they would say, getting sued after 9 years, 11 months and 30 days, and then somebody arrives with a lawsuit. So they're very concerned about making switches to things. So at the moment, we're currently not looking at it because these are the accepted ways. Our job now is to change the process. We're not that focused on changing the material as we are on changing the process.
Well, and Daniel, thanks for that question, because Gerry is like going to be a week-long guest for us. He's actually sleeping in our basement. He's coming back on Monday with Brittany Campbell-Turner, Henry Mickelberg, and the immediate past chairman, Greg Ugaldi. And we are going to talk about this. We are going to be talking in regards to why hasn't the mass adoption happened? Is it price? Is it cost? Is it fear? There's so many reasons and so many misconceptions out there. This will be the first time we have a discussion like this live, all the way to the top, people that walk in the White House and update, our government officials. And so this is going to be a great conversation Monday at 1 p.m. So tune in for that. Love it.
One of the things that I like in that space that points to what Daniel said is we often talk about sheathing, and sheathing is used and it's not used. But what we don't have in North America at this point is a wood fiber board like the brand Gutex. We don't have that, and it's amazing with the production of wood wooden components and panels in both Canada and America that we don't have that. And I know there's some startup over out east, but it's amazing we don't have that. Very, very interesting thought.
Mark, you're right. And what I would say is, and again, I live in the United States, and I have my 3 of my 4 children are born here, so I'm not being disparaging, but I mean, the United States industry, in reality, residential industry is, and I would say easily 20 years behind Europe in terms of both efficiency on site, but also in terms of its openness and willingness to try new materials and new systems. So there is an issue there that's hard to move. I mean, it's very, very hard to get it to move, and so you have to pick the battles that you can win, and then it's a bit like taking bricks out of the wall, and eventually you take enough out, then you can knock it over. But you can't go try to change everything all at the one time. But it definitely is behind it, and to take that point to prove it, I mean, if you look at U.S. construction productivity, it has declined over the last 60 years. Now, that's not to say that European productivity is stellar by any means, but it has actually risen, and U.S. construction productivity has declined. And so when you sort of look at it yourself and say, well, what's different? Well, the Europeans are willing to open to new materials, new systems, new processes, and the United States residential builders are basically not. I mean, the easiest thing to get a U.S. residential home builder to do is put in a new fancy thermostat or a new Wi-Fi hub. That is their level of technology adoption. You go to those things and it's all of that, but you go to them to try to talk about changing the process on site, and it's like you are speaking a different language. And then you have this, and we can talk about this on Monday as well, this crazy system where you have buyers who are tasked with making the decision. Think about this, making the decision on what framing system is to be used in the building of the house, and yet pay no regard to the impact that will have on their cycle times, their costs, and the process itself. I just want to see the bottom price. Your price is this price is this. I'm taking that one, and completely ignore So there's no desire or there's no motivation on their part to try to find better, more efficient ways. They just want to buy the widget a half a cent cheaper this year than they bought it last year.
Well, and that's it. They don't look at the full life cycle either, Gerry. I mean, that's a big thing that you've been educating, and we'll definitely talk about that as well. Listen, we're already at 45 minutes. We haven't even shown your product yet, man.
Let's do a video, and then we can't forget about talking about green lumber. There's so many points to get to. Let's jump into a video here, and we'll all have a glass of coffee while we watch.
I like the music.
Dramatic. That's one.
Juan, come on. Come to the dark side. All right, love it, love it, love it. So, Gerry, when we're looking at all of these, these videos and these house sets and everything that you're doing, I mean, I know you know the answer to this, but I want to ask it because I don't think people realize the life cycle of the construction time to frame something of one of those scale, like to the scale that we were just looking at, multifamily buildings. How much time does that save on site?
I mean, it's you're going to be shocked. And these are real hard figures. Now, that particular last project you saw there, those 4-story buildings, they were actually single-family luxury homes in San Francisco. We took over that site from a stick framing crew because the stick framing crew was taking 60 days to frame those houses. 60, right?
Let me put it back up.
We can put the roof on that house, we can put the roof on that frame in 2 days.
Wow.
Now, it takes us another 8 days to get out of the house completely, but right. we're up with frame with roof on, pretty much ready for windows on day 2. It's taken 60 days. Well, if it would be making a fair comparison, it's taken 60 days as opposed to 10 days for us. That's on that. Now, we're currently working on a large multifamily project in the city of Dublin, ironically, in California. And the buildings are 20,000 square feet. We've taken over that one as well from a stick framer. And that one, that frame was taking the framer 100 days to get out of. Wow. On the very first building we're aiming to go at 50 days. And then on the second building, we're aiming to come down to 30 days. So that's months that we're taking off. Now, in this case, for the builder, every single one of those units is sold. Every single one of them. So
heads on beds.
It's heads on beds. I mean, the money that comes in that'll come in. Now, I'll give you another example. We completed 272,000 square feet of apartments for rent in the city of Manteca in California, and we did it in 13 weeks. 13, and wow. People say it's not possible, it can't be done. Go talk to the builder. Go there, talk to him. Even he said this is not, but he actually put us on a bonus if we hit it. We got the bonus. We did it. So
I love bonuses.
This is the thing about the amount of misinformation that there is out there, and that other question about what's the difference between the guys in the 1960s, 1970s. when you actually get down to the sophistication of the technology and our ability, remember, we take every single house up to 4,000 square feet to plate in one day, right? I mean, one day, and you couldn't fill a domestic garbage container with the waste. I mean, just think about that. Now you get to those 20,000 square foot, 4-story condo buildings. There literally was no dumpster on site. It was a little plywood box they made to take the waste off the site. So that's the difference. I mean, we're talking about absolute total precision.
So compared to a site contractor who's typically throwing 10 to 30% of their lumber in the dumpster each time they build something, yes?
Correct. That's what the figures basically come out of. They say it's anywhere between 10 and 30. Well, I think 10 and 25% to be fair is what they say is going in the dumpster.
And what do you do with any excess lumber that's at your manufacturing facility?
We'll actually either recycle it or reuse it, or repurpose it for other things in the yard. Now the odds, some of it it does get sent out because there are people who actually want to buy it because they want to use it for other purposes as well. Yeah. But it doesn't go to landfill. That's I mean, we're not into that now. Also, example of that is in Century back in Ireland, we were ISO 14001 registered, which is the environmental standard. And our current manager, we'll be actually bringing this into place in California now as well, hopefully sometime through this year. Our current manager, Gerry, who handled that in Ireland for us, we had our waste down to 3% to landfill.
Wow.
3%. 3%. That's 3%, because we were recycling or reusing or repurposing everything else because we managed it and we were segregated, because you can do that in a factory. You can't do it on a building site.
Right.
And so it has huge environmental benefits, both in terms of the construction process itself, but also in terms of the performance of the building. And I know, Mark, you like the expression, performance, precision improves performance. And it absolutely does in every aspect. In every aspect, because the more precise you are, the less waste you have. The more precise you are, the faster the building goes. The more precise you are, the more energy efficient your building is in every single way. But what has been lost, I think, to a large degree in the U.S. construction industry is they've actually worked the opposite way around. They think if we go to the lengths of trying to have absolute precision, we're going to slow ourselves down and it's going to cost more. It's actually the obverse is true. The more precise you are, the faster you go, the less costs you have, the less warranty issues you'll have. You actually save money by being precise. But the U.S. construction industry genuinely believes it's the other way around. Hence why you don't see a guy take out a tape measure on a building site anymore. He puts a 2x4 over his boot and cuts it with a skill saw and then hopes that it fits in the right place. And if it's a little bit out, he still puts it home. Whereas, that's not made up. That's what happens. We all know that's what happens. We run it through a CNC saw that's going to cut it to millimeter tolerances. So there's so much happening there that people have the wrong view. And it's not being critical. I'm just saying it's a fact. Precision improves performance. It doesn't diminish it.
Well, I think, Mark, you'd agree with this. And then I got a question for you, Mark, on as a follow-up to what I'm going to ask Gerry too. Gerry, the market is changing. More and more people are starting to see the value in offsite. So, there is growth happening. There are more people taking a look at it. There are bigger builders taking a look at our industry and calling us and asking questions. So I hear you loud and clear on the market, but I do think the market's shifting. And I do think that the pandemic is helping with that. I think the lack of skilled labor is helping with that. I think people are a lot more environmentally friendly in their minds because of what's happening with COVID and their health. There's a lot more attention coming to the values of offsite. And that's kind of why we got our foot on the gas right now. So, Mark, and the follow-up to that is with you, when we look at the cycle time, the carbon disasters, as we call them, everybody refers to them as carbon footprints. We've coined carbon disasters on one of our shows. So how is all of this, Mark, from looking at it from a passive house, green construction builder, how are you looking at what's happening in the offsite market with what Gerry's doing, the cycle times? How is that impacting energy efficiency and building science?
So the first part it's impacting it is the dry-in process. The material is already kiln drying, and then it's cut off site and it's assembled and in 2 days roof on. So when that happens, we know that the material is not being stacked for days, weeks, etc. on site. and getting saturated or getting full of water simply from standing water in a puddle. But the shell is there. So when the shell protects it, the drying begins of the phase. So this is a huge component to health, right? Yep. When you trap moisture in a building during a construction phase, you have to remove that before you move on to the next systems. Yeah. Backing up, that key component that I love that Entekra has is that precision. The joints for the jacks and the kings and the cripples and the headers, those are we call it dead nuts, right? They're how they're supposed to be. So it's not at the boot cut as Gerry says, and knocked in with a block, and possibly that nail happened to go in the right spot at the right angle and held it. Nope. So when you have all those together, now you have a recipe for successful air sealing and successful window install and successful rough openings for the other portions. That is building science at its best. Without comfort, you have a disaster.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned earlier also the green lumber. Let's talk about the lumber you're using, Gerry, because you're not using Home Depot lumber. You guys are using a higher quality lumber for your build cycle, and I believe it's kiln dried as well. Is that an accurate comment?
All our studs are kiln dried, and all our studs material is all either stamped in other words, to a higher grade. It's either stamped HQ high quality or stamped premium or stamped premier. We don't use normal grade material that's used on a building site. And again, that's for a number of reasons. One is, again, given our European background, we would never have got away with that in Europe. So it's inherently built into us from the first place that you just don't use what I would call cheap, nasty, twisted lumber. You just don't do it. Because think about this. This is somebody's home. This is the most expensive thing that most Americans will ever own in their lifetime. It deserves to have the correct quality of material put into it. And just saying, I also that people said, I love this expression, which is when people say, "Oh, it's built to code." Well, what does actually that mean? It means it's built to the lowest permissible legal standard. Now, do you want to go to a doctor who operates to the lowest legal permissible standard? Do you want to get on a plane that is built to the lowest legal permissible standard? Do you want to drive a car that's built to the lowest legal permissible standard? No, you don't. Nobody does. So when people say, "Oh, it's built to code," as if it's some form of badge of honor, it's the exact opposite. It basically says, I'm only doing the bare minimum that I can do to get away with it. Right. And we do not operate to those standards. We operate to a completely different standard, and it's to us. We would, in other words, when you look at the way people adjust pricing and stuff, what they think about, if I need to increase my profit, what I need to do here is drive down the cost of the material I have in it, or reduce the amount of material I have in it, or put cheaper material into it, as opposed to turning around and saying, well, maybe I can actually do this by improving my process. We work on the process. So if we can make the process more efficient, that lowers our costs, then it allows us to put higher quality material into the building. And that's how, and then we go out and we market ourselves as being the high quality producer at the competitive price, not the other way around. Because anybody can cut material out of their building or buy the cheapest stuff that there is available, and then hope that they can hide it, cover it up, and get it done. But we only use kiln dried material, and we only use premium grade material that's going into the building, and then we're using precision cutting at CNC to make sure that building is built to the tightest tolerances possible. Because I do want one other expression that, sorry, I'm jumping in. This is another one that I learned in America that I have never seen before in Europe, which was the expression, and I hope there's some Europeans listening to this because they'll find this very amusing. The expression that you would find on a drawing, field verify. I mean, that to a European is, you must be out of your, can you imagine that they sent up the International Space Station, and the guys who were putting the thing together, there was a document that said field verify? We live in the 21st century. How the hell can you not figure it out before you put it there? We have to, because our equipment doesn't field verify. It has to be right when we run it through the equipment. But the fact that architects here in this country can get away with writing field verify onto a drawing. Now you understand why precision is not exactly the strongest attribute going around in the industry, because that is anathema to me. That expression, field verify, it means you don't know what you're doing.
It's so great that you say that, and it's certainly not a knock on architects. It's for everyone to go beyond. And Tomas is probably grinning in the fish tank right now, because this is the joy of Passive House, those details, and the joy of Offsite, right? Collectively, those details are the 80% before we produce. Right. It's the digital twin, as we call it. It's all figured out, and brilliant. Field verified. And that's with an F. That's not with a PH.
Yeah, that's definitely with an F.
So, Gerry, I have my Mark, I got to get out my soapbox now. I got something to say. And Gerry, this is a big push for me right now. I, as an individual and as an industry, am tired of being in last place. We're below agriculture. We're below everybody and everything on an industry that has not changed in this country in 100 years. To think that we're going to continue doing things the same way we've been doing them doesn't work. Look at the housing crisis we have. Something's not working, and it's the lack of our ability. People are changing it like you, Gerry, but it's the lack of our ability to be innovative, to take things to the next level, truly understand building process, building techniques at another level where it's not field verified, to where we're very efficient on how we do it. We're very efficient with the products that we're using. We're environmentally friendly about the products that we're using, and we are building healthier homes for people. So, with that said, this is my soapbox. I'm just tired. We will not be in last place if I have anything to do with it. We should be in first place. We should be Tesla. Yes. We should be Tesla when you think about it, because our cars do not do nearly as much as our homes do for us on an everyday basis, to include house our kids when we sleep at night. It makes no sense to me, but we're going to change it. And people like you and Mark, we're going to all do it together.
Here's another irony when you mentioned vehicles, Dave, which I think I always find this relatively amusing, is you'll get certain members of the stick framing fraternity who are absolutely anti Offsite and anti-technology. Yet the same people drive up to the building site in their latest, Ford F-150 with every single piece of satellite technology and mobile phone and Bluetooth and everything else, and then they go home in the evening and watch their flat screen TV with their cell phone and order their food on their computer, and yet they don't think that technology should be applied to construction. It's somewhat incredible when you think about it, that there's a group of people that exist in the construction industry whose sole objective is to prevent innovation and technology adoption, and yet they want it in every other aspect of their life. The contradiction is so glaring. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So you're right. Thanks to people like yourself and Mark, the world is changing. So it's not the dim picture that it's not happening. It is, and there are some builders out there who are actually genuinely saying to themselves now, and I think you rightly said earlier on, when you see the builder, our hardest job is selling it to the builder the first time. But when you see the builder coming back for the second, third, and fourth development, now you know the penny has dropped, right? And so that is what's also been disproving a lot of the misinformation that was put out in the California market is, it doesn't work. Yeah, if it doesn't work, why is that builder coming back the second, third, and fourth time? Because they actually know that it does work. And it's now building a serious momentum in terms of the builders who are now doing the repeats. I've had in the last 2 weeks, I've had multiple discussions with builders in Northern California where the conversation has been, do you have enough capacity to supply us if we switch everything over? So, that's the kind of discussions that's gone from the discussions of, please, Mr. Builder, will you try out my system, to Mr. Builder now coming back, having tried it, going, Gerry, you think you have enough capacity to supply us? So, it is happening. And again, thanks to you guys as well for promoting the message, but it is happening.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it as well. Well, listen, also 2020 NAHB Building Systems Council Manufacturer of the Year. So we're putting that up. We got to get to some comments here, Gerry and Mark. Are you guys good with that right now?
Yeah, if we could keep that up at the bottom and reinstate the great fact that was brought up earlier, manufacturer of the year means an incredible team coming together day in and day out, weeks on end to make a transformation. That team at Entekra deserves high praise. So I love that this is on the ticker there. And all those faces that we haven't seen from your plants, much respect and bless their hearts for all they do for the industry.
They are a great team. In fact, believe it or not, I will be meeting all of them today in LA. They're all flying down to Los Angeles today. So we said we'll all meet up as a group because it's just about opening up down here. So they're all coming down to join to have a little offsite reunion down here in LA. But they are absolutely, they are an incredible team. I mean, that's right across. Remember, we have 50 engineers in Ireland. So
Yeah.
just the people who are listening to this understand this. There's a team of 50 people in Ireland. This is really an international collaboration of what we've done in Entekra. I like to use the expression that says the sign of a smart guy is the people who employ people who are smarter than he is, and that's what I've done. I have a colossal amount of people around me who know an awful lot more about me, about what we do than I do, and it's that knowledge that's in there that's driving this.
No, I'm not going to agree with you on that one. I think you're pretty smart, Gerry. I think you're pretty smart.
There's a lot of other people a lot smarter than I am. I can assure you of that. I genuinely mean that. A lot smarter than I am.
I love it. All right, let's get to some comments and questions here. I just want to say Damien is with us today. What's up, Damien S? They are supporting programs on Irish TV as soft propaganda. This is going back to when we were saying is the concrete organization still back against us. All right. Peter Molinar, what's happening, Peter? How can the message be more widely broadcast that offsite panel construction is better quality because of being manufactured in a temperature and moisture controlled situation?
Well, the answer to that, Dave, is you're helping to do that, and Mark as well. And you know, I would say this. We were having this discussion before we started. Is guys, we all need to be using social media to its maximum potential because that's how we will get that message out. I mean, this world has changed from 20, 30 years ago as well. So we have the ability now to get our message out. So to take that message that Peter has said there, we've all as an industry got to use the media a lot better than we have been using it because it is a great way to get to the people that matter.
Love it. All right, moving on. Going down the line. All right, did I do this one? Daniel Feelgood, what alternatives to wood framing members and plywood sheet? Yes, we did this one already. Moving on. Pedro says, I learn a lot from your videos, Dave, always with excellent guests. Thanks. Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. All right, Pedro, man, thanks for joining us today. That's awesome. All right, Daniel Fulga. How is this different than the Premier Building System structural insulated panels, SIPs, which I used before? I think this is getting back to the whole system. That's what we're missing here is they're not doing what. Go ahead, Gerry. This is your show.
No, I mean, I listen. SIPs are a great product. I love them. They are absolutely a great product. I mean, it's no question about it. It's a great product. But that's what it is. It's a product. It's a one part of the building. It's not the offsite construction, and this is what people need to stop thinking about this. Stop thinking about offsite construction. I mean, if you want to talk about the component industry, by its very nature, the fact that they call themselves a component industry means they're focused on the component. An offsite company is not focused on the component. An offsite company is focused on the system. And that's as basic a way as I can put it. Yes, SIPs is great, and I could bring SIPs into our system and make it work, but it's not because they're SIPs. It's because of the system. And that's what I think people need to understand. And that's one of the hardest messages in the US market to get across to people is it's not about the product. We're not a product, we're a system. And it's our system that brings the advantage. And I think Aristotle said a long time ago, 2,000 years ago, a man a lot smarter than me. He said, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that we're about the whole. Structural component guys are about the parts. Right? And people think it's all about buying the parts, and if you buy them the cheapest piece possible, that gives you the lowest cost. It doesn't. It's the synergy. It's the whole. It's understanding the process and the system that delivers the cost benefits.
You could have a grocery bag full of ingredients, but that doesn't mean you can make dinner and a pie.
Absolutely. Well said.
Dave, you're on mute, brother.
If you're on mute.
Sorry, am I still on mute, everybody?
You're good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, moving on down the line, Gerry. Sorry, I'm trying to sort through a lot of this stuff here that a bunch just popped in. Mark, I'm going to give some of these to you, my friend.
All set, Dave.
Oh, man, we got all kinds of people. This is fun. I'm having a blast. Let's see. All right.
So Mike McCollum says, right on, Gerry, it's not about the sticks.
That is correct.
Technology, efficiency, and sustainability. Right on, Mike.
Now we're talking the language.
Oh, Adam goes on to ask, have you used MGO board? My guess is you've used it, but I think he's asking, are you currently using it?
No, we're not currently using. I have used it on projects before, and you know, I do like the material, but no, not at the moment. On the work that we're doing at the moment, no, it's primarily OSB.
It's a great question. So there's a lot of resistance to MGO in site building because of its weight and because of its usability. However, factory processing of MGO would be very good idea, and I would encourage the MGO people to make them in sizes for manufacturing, not for let's say a building yard, right? That's
Yes.
one of the problems is products are made for building yards, not for manufacturers, and manufacturers need different sizes.
Correct. And different tolerances as well. Believe it or not, that's another issue that arises from time to time. So
There you go.
yeah, there's a lot of
tolerance.
when you're dealing with manufacturers, it's a different kettle of fish to dealing with people on a building site.
Absolutely. So Buzz says it sounds like U.S. lumber manufacturer producers could step up the precision a bunch. I think Buzz is pointing out to that fact that the tolerance of a 2x6, right, is incredible.
But Mark, even go back, Mark, just even think what you just said there now. So the tolerance of a 2x6. What is a 2x6?
Well,
Not a 2x6.
I mean, like let's we talk about precision equals performance. I mean, think about it. We're in an industry that calls a piece of material that is if it's a 2x6, 1.5 inches by 5.5, calls it a 2x6.
Right.
It's not, and then you end up with these variations in tolerances because it's coming in green, or the lumber supplier has allowed a significant amount of tolerance compared to what would be allowed in Europe, but it's marketed out there as if that's fine. I can genuinely say this, that in Europe, we would have sent an awful lot of the lumber that we get into the yard back because it does not fit the tolerance. But here it's permitted.
Yeah.
That is actually, when you think about that, that is actually quite frightening. So there's a lot of room for improvement, both in terms of the tolerance itself, but also even with the kiln drying, in the drying of the material itself. Because a lot of the drying facilities here in the US are not exactly the most modern, up-to-date drying facilities that there are. Whereas in Europe, for example, in Ireland, you cannot put green lumber into a house.
Right.
Against the law. Cannot do it. And for a multitude of different reasons. I mean, health is one of them. Bug infestation is another one. Movement in the house, the quality of it. It's a whole load of reasons. Moisture trapped inside the building. It's just, it makes no sense. Yet it's
the mill process in Europe is different than the mill process in the U.S., right? Or North America, I should say, because Canada runs it. But a CLT producer in Europe is getting a 30% more yield out of their timber than a CLT producer in North America because of how we cut and process.
Yeah.
It's a fix that's needed in the process.
Correct.
Love it. All right, moving on. Hey, this is one of our Wednesday show sponsors. I'll take this one. Ben Hershey, Forward Solutions. Man, I love these guys. Awesome conversation today. Thanks to Gerry for sharing why Offsite Construction is here today and how we advance to the next iHome of the future. Mark Willie, love the thumbs up. Yeah, Ben Hershey and Joe Butler are huge sponsors of our show. And on top of that, they really know their stuff. They're good people. So I love you guys. I appreciate you joining us today, Ben. I know you're a very busy person. Thank you.
Dave, you might not know this, but Ben and I are old friends.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Ben and I worked together years and years ago in the earlier days of Green, and his knowledge in the trust space is unfounded. Great gentleman.
Yeah, super big heart, man. Really love it. Love it. Love it. All right, here we go. Let's take a couple more. Gerry, we still have some more stuff to get through. We're already an hour and 14 minutes. So I don't know how your time is going here, but let me see.
I'm good. I'm good if you guys are good.
All right, Jennifer has a question. Jennifer behind the scenes always has something more intelligent to say than I do. Gerry McCaughey, if you think the U.S. is 20 years behind, what would you tell your younger self given the lessons you've learned? Oh, man. All right. So, Gerry, listen, you only have 2 minutes to answer this one, okay?
Jennifer.
We have a time limit here on this one.
Yeah. How would you answer that question? I probably would have started sooner in the US. I mean, ironically, when we sold Century in 2005, in 2004, we actually made the announcement that we were going to enter the North American market, but our initial target market was actually going to be Canada. So at that point in time, just before we got approached to sell Century, I was actually looking at the North American market, but it was actually Canada that I was looking at because it was more. I think even when I think about it now, is the wrong way to think about it, but there was more offsite construction being done up there than there was down here, and I thought, I would look at that market. So I would answer the question saying probably what I would have done was told myself, go into the US market earlier. Now, maybe people say, timing's everything, and now maybe is the better time to do it. And it would have taken until now for the market to be ready to listen to the message. But I think there's a huge opportunity here. And that's what I would have told myself earlier on is there's a huge opportunity in the US. Take a look at it earlier.
Yeah. I love it. All right, Jennifer, thanks. We always appreciate a good, hard question for Gerry. That one almost stumped you, Gerry. So Mike McCollum has a lot of comments in here. We're not going to be able to get to all of them. I mean, there's a ton of them. So, Mike, we're not ignoring it, but I think we're going to take a look at some of them. But I want to get to some other guests as well, and then we'll circle back for sure. Henry Mickelberg. Hey, what's happening, Henry? Adds another candle to my Gerry McCaughey shine. I love it. I didn't know you had a shrine.
Henry. I don't know. I don't know whether half the time take that guy seriously or not. You know that? He's the guru.
He is the guru. And hey, listen, as you'll see in the ticker below, Henry will be on with us on Monday. Well, he's a self-proclaimed, I can't remember how he says it, self-proclaimed modular guru, but he really is a world-renowned person when it comes to modular and construction. He is part of our big conversation on Monday. So that's going to be great. And so are you, Gerry, the Gerry Show. And it's not the Jerry Springer Show, thank goodness. Yeah. All right, love it. Here's somebody we haven't mentioned yet today. Candell Hoyd, has anyone ever estimated with what square and dimensionally correct foundations would save in the cost of a new home? Homes.
This is an interesting topic now. This really is
That's a great question, right?
It is. That's a whole other can of worms now because, like, from so many different angles. I mean, you'll get guys that said to us as well, you'll never be able to make your system work out here because in California, typically when they talk about wall panels, they're not even sheared. There's no OSB on them, and they're able to manipulate them around. And ours are. And then they said, you'll never make it work in California. The guys can't get the concrete right. It's not possible. Therefore, offsite construction cannot work. And yet, guys, we're doing, 6 to 7 houses a day at the moment.
Right.
So, when you tell me it doesn't work, it does. And my next question back is, do you not think that we had to face this problem 35 years ago in Ireland? Of course we did. I mean, there's a lot of things get put forward in the US as if they're problems that are here that nobody else has ever encountered or nobody else has ever solved. I can tell you when it comes to offsite construction, the problems have been solved. There is no current problem in offsite construction in the United States market that has not already been solved. You just have to look for the answer. So let me say that for start. And again, you guys, and I'm sure this, you guys in the modular industry, you know it better than anybody. You've been solving these problems for years as well.
Yep. So
the solutions are there, and the people who are in the industry know it. But what we do, and this is how we do it, is we actually laser scan. We 3D laser scan every slab before we come to site, and we will make the concrete guy put it correct if it's wrong. Because I tell you what, just like a child, once they've suffered the penalty, they'll not do it wrong. They'll not do it wrong the second time. And that's really what it's about. But here's where the problem has arisen in the United States up to now. Because at the moment, there is no incentive on anybody to actually get it right. Because when the concrete guys come out here at the moment and they put in a slab and it's off, the best that really happens is somebody comes out with a hose and puts water on and sees there's a puddle. And if it does, they grind it down. And that's about the height of it. Then the stick framer arrives out on site with his lumber pack, drops his lumber, and his men arrive on site. Do you think that if he discovers that slab is dimensionally inaccurate or dimensionally off the diagonals, that he's going to stop or go to the builder to get it rectified? No. What's he going to do? He's going to put the house up, because he only gets paid when he puts the house up. So there's no incentive on him whatsoever to make sure that slab is built to the tolerances that are required. The same thing is also equally true of the lumber. When the lumber pack arrives for him that he's ordered, and there's some crappy lumber in it, he doesn't send it back. He uses it, because again, it would stop him getting the house up. So the whole incentivization to get quality into the build system isn't there at the very beginning, when you're looking at probably three of the most important elements, which is the slab itself, the framing itself, and the material that's going into it. There is a disincentive to actually get the quality right at the beginning. And how we have addressed that is we literally go out and we will scan that slab. And if it does not meet the drawing, because we give the drawing to the builder to give to the concrete subby to put in, if that slab is not to our dimensions, then we're not putting the house up. And we will turn the truck around.
I have a challenge to Juan. When you guys come across the slab that is laser correct, let's get a video out and give acknowledgments of that, so we transform the marketplace at the get-go. We've all have strings and stakes and tape measures. We also have brilliant lasers that think for us. So acknowledging that we can encourage and we can inspire people to eliminate the challenges of 87-degree angles versus a 90.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. And it is. And we actually have the laser. We have the digital images. Because when we take that image from site, we actually send it back to our engineering team in Ireland, and then they compare it with the building. So like we're doing this with technology. All of this we're doing this day in and day out. Like we're out scanning. We actually ordered a second laser scanner yesterday, because we're going to take another person on board now to do more scanning. But we scan them all, and then we cross-check it against our product, because I mean we're sending CNC files. It either fits or it doesn't.
So you're gonna like this. I have a guest. This person is coming to us on YouTube from Ireland. Precision, perfect contred materials, higher grade of assembly. I love this talk. It's about Fulkin time.
Well done, Bob.
Bob.
That's funny.
Bob Kelly's a good friend, actually from Chicago, but he's got 9 lovely Irish children.
There you go.
All right, we're going to fly through a couple more of these comments. I do know Thomas has to leave at the half-hour mark, so we want to bring him back in as well. We may have to get to a round 2 on this, Mark.
Yeah, we can always use more Gerry time.
Yeah, we definitely can. All right, so I'll do a couple more. Here you go. Here's another buzz for you, Mark.
Yeah, Buzz, it would rest on the lumberyard, not the builder or designer of the structure. Fall back we are. Yeah. Interesting. So you're talking about, got it.
Yeah. So Shannon, Kendall, Adam, Mike, we just don't have the time, but I do have another question here. Mark, go for it. Daniel Folga.
So question number 3, how does this technology compete with the new 3D printing of entire neighborhoods? I would like to put a pin in that one. A 3D printed neighborhood is an interesting technology, but let's be clear. Not all of those pieces are 3D printed. A small aspect of that is.
Absolutely. Glad you said that. Glad you said there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to 3D printing of buildings at the moment. and it's relatively unsophisticated and in what it can actually do. And as you'll see, some of the photographs they're doing it on the ground floor and then going wood frame on the second floor and the floors themselves. So when people talk about being 3D printed, they're far from 3D printed. I mean, remember in Florida currently, lots of the first floors of the buildings are built out of concrete blocks, and then they put wood frame off the top of them. So there's nothing. I put this. I think I'll be long retired or gone off this planet by the time that 3D printing is a real major has real major market share in the United States market. Because I put it this way: if you think that converting builders from stick framing to offsite is a tough task, you think about what's involved in actually building 3D on a building site, and then you've got the material itself. So and I know there's a lot of plastics or a lot of polymers and stuff being used, but you can start getting into where they're using concrete-based materials, and you've got the CO2 involved as well. There may be environmental issues that would raise their head. So there's still a lot out there. It's not to say that it's not interesting. It is, and it won't find uses. It will, but it's not. I don't think it's as far on as people think that it may be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But Tomas has some parting words for us, Dave.
Let's bring him. Hey, Tomas, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Oh, Gerry, it's been a blast from the past listening to you for the last hour or so. It's been fantastic. I just wanted to, I suppose, maybe make a few comments, if I may. First of all, guys, there's nothing more natural than wood, and we need to use more wood in construction. If you think about it, the next time you see a piece of wood, what I want you to realize is wood is 50% carbon, 42% oxygen, and 6% hydrogen. I mean, there is nothing more natural in the world, right? And we need to be building more and more in wood. I suppose I want to give a bit of an insight. Gerry would be aware of this, but maybe to our international friends, Europe is the only continent in the world that actually has a building standard, right? So it has a continental-wide standard. 27 countries, 300 million people. And from the end of last year, every new dwelling in Europe and every non-domestic building as well has to be built to the NZEB standard, the nearly zero energy building standard. Now, the way the trend is going, guys, is the standard R value for a wall in Ireland now is about an R40, R42. So we're going like fabric first approach, where the building envelope is all nailed down. Insulation is sorted. The next frontier is going to be vapor control and air tightness and, draft proof construction. And, Gerry's system of offsite construction is just perfectly made for that. So in Ireland and across Europe, the numbers for air tightness have been coming down and down and down and down. And your typical bog standard, spec builder in Ireland now is getting an air tightness of around 2 without even trying. Passive house, we're 10 times tighter than that. But the systems that Gerry is doing at Entekra are really highly optimized for very airtight buildings. Now, of course, we never talk about air tightness without talking about ventilation. So we say build tight, ventilate right. And all across Europe now, you have to have independently commissioned ventilation systems in all new dwellings again, which that's going to be something that will come to the US, I think, in due course as well. And think about the accuracy. I mean, when I was building this house that I'm sitting in now, it's a passive house, so it's built in concrete. I didn't have the confidence to order the windows until the rough openings were made, because I frankly didn't know if the windows were going to fit or not. Whereas if you're talking about millimeter accuracy, you can order the windows the day you order the walls. And so everything can be sort of assembled, on site, on time, every time. And I suppose the last thing I wanted to mention is mold. I mean, it's horrific the amount of mold that people are living with across the world. And, if you live in a moldy home, basically being sold, a shoddy home. And, we've got to get very clever on construction detailing and minimizing thermal bridges. And again, I know that's something that Gerry and his team in Monaghan, we're hardwired here in Europe to think about vapor control, to think about thermal bridging, to think about optimized detailing. And so I suppose my parting words would be that, we've had a housing crisis globally. We've got a carbon crisis globally. We've got a resources issue globally. We've got indoor air quality issues. I mean, I've never heard so many people, radio talk show hosts, talking about their change of power. So COVID is a disaster to human health, but in terms of building performance, people are now talking about it. I think, systems in the States and in Monaghan, just up the road from me here, it really is cutting edge. And I'm laughing. I'm thinking about the guys, who say it'll never take off. Can you imagine, Ford or Mitsubishi, supplying you with a kit? You have to assemble the car in your front lot. I mean, the whole thing would be laughable. So, Gerry, it was a great honor for me to introduce you tonight. And I hope when you're back in Ireland that we can meet up, and lovely to meet Mark and Dave as well, and just a real honour to be here with you tonight.
No, I think the honour is mine, Tomas, but I definitely owe you a big one for that introduction. But thank you very much. But anyway, not to be patting, but he is, anybody listening here, if you're looking about anything to do with passive in the United States, that's the man.
Yeah.
He's thank you so much. Yeah.
I have an insightful question for you, Tomas. When you said the walls are currently around R40 in Ireland, so R value is an interesting number, right? Are you also speaking of the effective U value of the whole assembly, not the R value?
Yes, indeed,
the insulation?
Yeah, so you cannot legally occupy a building in Ireland unless the R values have been independently tested and verified, including all the thermal bridge, elements of whether it's wood studs, whether it's concrete with metal wall ties. And so when I talk about an R value of R42, we're talking about that's the kind of effective R value, including all the thermal bridging. Triple glazing, Mark. Triple glazing is now standard. It's pretty much required in Ireland. Heat recovery ventilation. So for me, as I suppose a pioneer in this whole area, for this 15 years later to become standard, is a great. It's really such a buzz, and people get shortchanged. Gerry made the point earlier on. You spend $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on a house, and let's be honest, the quality you get is poor. It really is compared to what you get for in your car or in your mobile phone. It's just and humans are not hardwired to expect higher standards. I don't know why this is. We just suck it up. We buy the house, we move in, we've got mold, we've got drafts, we've got poor air quality, and for some reason we're just not hardwired to actually criticize that. And that's my soapbox, Dave. You could say we've got to demand more from our homes. And
I would have had a soapbox ready for you, Thomas.
Yeah. So it's quite a bit later here on Friday evenings. My kids are allowed takeout once a week. We're in COVID lockdown here, and there's a special treat. They're allowed a takeout on a Friday evening, and I'm getting posters here saying, the takeout has arrived. So
well, you go enjoy it.
Yeah, Gerry, it's genuinely fantastic to see you, Gerry, and hopefully we can see you soon. And thanks to Dave and Mark and everybody as well. God bless.
Hey, thanks, Thomas. We really appreciate you joining us.
All right. Thank you. See you soon.
All right, hey, Gerry, Mark, I'm going to take one more comment because it's a soapbox comment, and I think it's a very important question, really. And that is, Jeremy Post, let's stream for a bit. How many Entekra-like facilities to address the current wood construction market in the U.S.? That was the first, but here's the other one that I really wanted to get to as well. Where is it? This one here. With tens of thousands of framing companies, contractors in the game in the U.S., what's your plan for getting the message across the country fast and loud? And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. You sitting down, Mark? It's this. It's collaboration. We're going to stop being fragmented as an industry. We're going to pull together as an industry. We're going to have offsite, panelized, modular, passive house, all come together. We have a big show on Monday where we have the immediate past chairman of the National Association of Home Builders on our show to talk about this very subject. So we're going to keep driving the message home. We're making gains. If we can stop pretending like we live in our own little silos and come together as an industry, that's how we're going to grow. And by God, you can see it gets me worked up. I'm hell bent on making it happen because it's time for change. That's where we're ending it.
I love it. We're absolutely going to encourage and inspire. I love the words that Tomas shared, and the great leaps that Ireland has made to have a full continent collaborating on one standard. it's something that Canada is taking on, and I find that very inspirational. Really enjoyed the conversation today, and some of the deep dives, and I like the fact that we stop and acknowledge the accomplishments over the years and the accomplishments that are still happening by the wonderful team at Entekra.
Yeah, 100%. So Team Entekra in the house. Team Entekra's in the house again Monday. Thank you, Gerry, for taking time. I know we didn't get through everything, but I know for sure this will not be the last time that you're on the Mark and Dave show here, celebrating all of Entekra's wins. You guys, just so everybody knows, I did not get to this last banner. I think it's super important. You also won the 2021 Gerry Rouleau Awards, Excellence in Home Design this year. So not only are you doing wonderful manufacturing, you won some other awards this year. So honor to know you, my friend. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. Gerry, don't go anywhere. Mark, you know the drill.
Before you go, just want to say that last word to you guys as well, because and I know I've said it a few times, but it's generally true. Well done to you guys for doing what you're doing, because as that last question was, I mean, this is how it's being done. I keep saying the truth is out there, but we've got to get people to go out and evangelize it and get it out there. And you guys are doing that. So I mean, well done from that. I mean, there is a huge opportunity here, and we're only at the very beginning stage of it. But the signs are very positive, very positive.
They are.
So well done.
Foot's on the gas. We're heading in that direction. So, all right, Gerry, Mark, thank you so much. We'll see everybody on Monday. Well, I'll see you tomorrow on Coffee with Dave, 9 a.m. We'll go through what's happening coming up. But to everybody else out there, if I don't see you, have a blessed and wonderful weekend. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. And let's make framing great again. Hey, Gerry? All right. We'll see everybody. Bye now.